Hello everyone and welcome back to another album review, and in this video I'm going to review Alles in Allem by Einstürzende Neubauten. What to even say and where to even start with the massive and very important legacy of Einstürzende Neubauten. Without a doubt, throughout lots of decades, they have become one of the first and one of the most influential industrial groups to ever exist, and also being one of the very first groups to have instrumentation that was just multiple pieces of steel or just everyday objects, getting the whole term of industrial music into a whole new level, having a more literal of a feel with all of the industrial pieces of instrumentation, as it could be used as some sort of percussion and even just portraying some very compelling melodies, which is an idea with all of those industrial soundscapes that influenced lots and lots of other artists in the future. Like, the sound they would create back in the early 80s was definitely revolutionary at the time, and the first works definitely had a more straightforward industrial and aggressive direction. As the years passed by, they toned down their sound a little bit. It would go more into some softer paths. The industrial soundscapes would still be there, but there would be a sense of like gothic music, some elements of like ambient, pop, and lots of other sounds that they still keep up until this day. It's been 6 years since they released their previous album Lament, which ended up, in my opinion, being their most disappointing work. Throughout one of the most consistent discographies to ever exist, Lament definitely came out as a big disappointment after a series of so many great and important albums back to back. What Einstürzende Neubauten presented with Lament was definitely different, but in the end it felt like they just tried so hard to portray something different, something unique with their sound, and in my opinion it didn't work at all. Instead, it made this the most underwhelming project in their discography. Fortunately, getting to Alles in Allem, it's not that case. It is pretty much the sound the group is known for in about 2 decades or so. And even people seem to highly appreciate this album much more compared to Lament, which even in terms of sales and streams it was really low. Just with the introduction, which was also a teaser cut from this thing, 10 Grand Goldie, it instantly brings me to the mood of the sound I love from Einstürzende Neubauten. Definitely one of the greater songs they've written in a long time. I really like the beat to this thing. It has a very sort of haunting feel to it, with some of the monotonous synths, the abrupt cuts, the weird sampling. The whole thing works fascinatingly well. Definitely one of the better tracks in this album. The album continues this great path with the track Am Landwehrkanal. Definitely another moment that gives me a vibe that I really enjoy from the sound of Einstürzende Neubauten, especially with the way it's paced and with the way the chorus is portrayed. It is very solid, it is a very infectious song in its short period of time. Now, the issue I ended up having with this album getting towards the rest of the songs is the exact opposite with the issue I had with Lament. But the thing with Alles in Allem is that it's an album in the Neubauten discography that provides absolutely nothing new. All of the ideas presented in this album are basically stuff that we've heard from the band for multiple years, for lots and lots of different albums. And this is not a bad thing by itself, but I think that so many other albums in the past have pretty much done the same thing but being even better, having some more refreshing ideas here and there, having some more solid approaches, or even having some parts in the production that would feel certainly more gratifying, which is something that for the most part misses in this brand new release. Apart from that, there is a massive lack of sort of variety or just multiple instrumentations throughout some of the tracks, leading them to feel kind of empty or that something is missing, which is something that has happened with lots of different albums and with lots of different tracks throughout lots of albums in the past. And this is something that also happens with this brand new release. And getting towards the middle portion of the album, I think there are some moments that were not that interesting. For example, the third and fourth track. They definitely had some interesting ideas here and there, but that was definitely not enough for me. I think Tassen is one of the more interesting ones, or Seven Screws. Alles in Allem, I think it takes a long time for it to progress. The pacing of this track definitely could have been better. Now, one of my favorite moments was the track Grazer Damm, which is the longest track on this album, but I definitely like the way it just progresses with some very nice bass lines and in general a sound that is quite infectious. Then the album with tracks like Wedding and Tempelhof, I think it makes a weak conclusion and I wasn't really a fan of those tracks. So in general, this is definitely not as disappointing as Lament, that's for sure, but still this is not one of the greater albums in the very highly consistent discography of Einstürzende Neubauten, and that's mainly because I don't think that this album has anything new to add in their discography other than some very solid tracks here and there. And that's just about it. I think as a whole thing the album is enjoyable and I like the fact that we're talking about one of the shorter albums. It's only 10 tracks and 44 minutes long. It's not like we're talking about a massive album, which is something that we would see a lot being a thing with some of the previous works from the band. So I like that this one is at least a bit more consistent, but the ideas presented through this album are not some of the greater they have so far. I at least like that the band didn't end up with Lament being their last album. At least Alles in Allem provides a sound that Einstürzende Neubauten are more known for. It is not as bad of an addition. There are some very good moments in this album and overall it is a decent work. I'm going to give Alles in Allem a 6+ out of 10. What's your opinion on this album? Like it, dislike it, why, and what do you want me to review next time? Let me know down in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.